Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So today we're going to talk about Dracotail again. As you guys know, this is the deck that I chose to flagship for the Justice Hunters format. And after 1 week, or after the first week of its debut, I found myself in an comfortable yet uncomfortable position. I really like the deck. I really like the build of the deck that I have on hand. I actually like the ratios that I have in my current deck list. I think across the board, most of the matchups are fine and favorable for me. Like, Yummy is a deck that I don't have any issues with. Like, yesterday at my locals, I had like 6 practice matchups against Yummy, and I won all of them. I think only 1 or 2 games went to game 3. So Yummy is a very, very, very favorable matchup for us. Into the other decks like Malice, Mitsuraizio, like all those decks, I feel very comfortable against playing this version of Dracotail. The one deck I cannot beat, and the reason I haven't been doing well like in the past weekend with this deck, is Vanquish Soul K9. This is one of the better decks in the game right now, and the matchup is very, very unfavorable for us. What I'm going to do today is talk about everything I theorized to properly counter this deck. And the goal behind this video is for you guys, the audience, tell me, what do you think is the best counter for Vanquish Soul if you're playing Dracotail? It doesn't have to be my version specifically. It could be like the K9 Dracotail deck. It could be like the Shadow centric one with without the 2 element cards. It could be like the branded Dracotail deck. Whatever version of Dracotail you want to see fit. How are you guys dealing with Vanquish Soul? So I have 3 different category of cards. Winda technically falls into a bit of 2 categories at once. That's why the Winda is separate here. The 5 Rainbow Magician does fall into one of the 3 categories, but I figure since it's a pendulum scale, I just place it on the pendulum scale because it just makes the most sense. So the 3 category of cards that I have to counter Vanquish Souls are the... Let's see if I can see... Is the Floodgate cards, it's the trade cards, and it's the blowouts. The purpose behind the blowout cards are to basically break the board that they already established after their turn 1. The purpose behind the trade cards is basically use them ideally on your turn 1 or 2 to just trade well with your opponent's resources and make the game as simplified as possible, or just force awkward interactions into them. And then you have the Floodgate cards. The purpose behind these cards are just stop them from playing the game as quickly as possible. And you're probably thinking, well, Floodgates are kind of cringe. Why are you bringing up Floodgates against this deck? Vanquish Soul is one of those decks that you need a lot to stop, because this deck is extremely fast at what it needs to do. This deck gets to its game plan quicker than other decks. And if your matchup is already unfavorable, they're going to be like 2 turns ahead of you, like in card economy and like in card advantage, and like with just power plays. That's why Floodgates are necessary against this deck. If you don't play Floodgates, the matchup is just going to be unfavorable for you, because their trades are going to be better than your trades. Now that I spoke about that, let's talk about the cards on each category by themselves. I'll start with the trade cards first. So, Kashira Fenrir. This card has been popping up in a lot of people's radar. A lot of other YouTubers have been talking about this card. The purpose behind this card and the reason this card is worth a mention is because it counters the K9s. If one of the things that makes this matchup not favorable for us, the Dracotail players, is the fact that we have hand and graveyard triggers, which do play into the K9 cards. That's where Fenrir comes in. With Fenrir, you can do your actual Dracotail plays without fearing the punishment behind the K9 interactions. Fenrir is also a really solid trade into certain cards, like banishing the Vanquish Soul start, banishing the Holisu, if they summon the Holisu successfully. And it's kind of an asterisk whether or not you can banish or target the Holisu, because they do have the tag cards like Caesar and Heavy Burger in order to just tag out the Holisu, same with the Rasen or the Jiaolong, etc. So Fenrir is a solid option. It's not the best option by any means, but it is one worth noting, just to say the least. Metaltronus. So if you can pair this card like with cards that like just share the stats of one monster on the board successfully, then this card could be beneficial for you. I'm not showing any Metaltronus targets, like you guys can figure that out upon yourselves. Maybe if you are playing the K9 version of Dracotail, you can just banish the K9 monsters altogether. That is like one thing you can do with Metaltronus. Jiaolong being a 2400 level 5 monster or fire monster, there could be applications there. One weird example is Urgula is a 2400 fire type monster, so you can negate Jiaolong with Metaltronus and just summon the Urgula. I don't know how helpful that will be, but you know, it's just something to bring up. Then you have the Black Goat last. The Black Goat is a really good trade card because both its effects are really good. Just blanketing a specific card for one turn could actually come up. Let's say, for example, you already have this set and you're playing against your opponent, and your opponent is trying to like special summon with Stake Your Soul, or they're trying to special summon with Holisu, or they're trying to special summon a monster that is tagging out from the hand. You can just call that card and just make sure that they don't summon it. It also can be used to be calling certain specific extra deck monsters, like the Nash Knight, if you don't want them to like taking your monsters. If you call Nash Knight with this, it's really strong because not only are you stopping them from taking your monster, you're also stopping them from making the C104 or the C101, which is another really strong card against us. But yeah, I think this is a really good trade card. If you can make this card played in your deck, it can be played, especially since it is a card that you can set with Thrust. Now, the card that actually made me want to make this video in the first place is a card that randomly was gifted to me in the mail, and that card is Summoning Curse. For those who don't know what this card is kind of old. It did get a reprint in one of the Rarity Collection sets. Before that reprint, it was a very expensive card. It was an expensive common. So Summoning Curse reads, if a monster is special summoned, the current controller of that monster banishes one card from their hand. During the end phase, pay 500 life points or destroy this card. So against Vanquish Soul, this card is really interesting. Each time your opponent tries to commit to a summon, it could be Holisu, it could be Izuna, it could be Lupus, they're taking out a card out of their hand. And Vanquish Soul is not one of those decks that can play around this card. This card is incredibly hard for them to play around, because let's say, for example, they don't want to banish a specific attribute and they just banish like one of their key cards, like for example the Snow Devil, the Vanquish Soul Star, like the Stake Your Soul. That's good for you, because that means that is less cards that they are using against you. Vanquish Soul is one of those decks that really needs their hand in order to play the game properly. So just being able to just slowly shave off cards from their hand each time they try to summon is just really strong. Right now, the best deck that can play this card is Malice, because this affects both players. In the off chance you want to activate this early, you can just banish your own Malice cards and they get to trigger for you to special summon. And this card doesn't stop you from special summoning, it just says that if you special summon, you have to banish. So after you do all your summons or you just set the right cards, you can just keep summoning and spamming monsters. But if your Vanquish Soul opponent decides to actually start to keep playing the game, they need to just keep banishing their hand, and this just puts them in an awkward situation. Also, in Dracotail, this card is not that bad, because what you end up doing is you can just fuse everything for Arthalion. Just fuse your entire hand away. You don't banish anything from the Summoning Curse, and then you use Arthalion to just grab back whatever you used to fuse. Dracotail is one of those decks that don't get really affected by a lot of floodgates. There are very specific ones like different Dimension Ground and Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos and Shifter. But outside of cards like those, not many cards really hurt Dracotail. So I'd say if you can play this card, it's a really good recommendation. Just so you can slow down the Vanquish Soul deck. Alright, let's talk about the blowouts. So, if you've seen my Dracotail deck list, you already know that all these spell cards are in my main deck, including the Book of Eclipse, and also Triple Thrust. These are just really strong tempo cards that can just deal with your opponent's board. That's not to say that I'm playing without hand traps. I'm siding the Moch armies, and I am maining decking Nibiru. And I'm also have the 5 mana, which is another hand trap. If you do so, open it. But these cards, basically, their purpose is to clear the threats that are already on board, and pretty much just put your opponent in. Try to beat you with their backup, with their card interactions, with their Holisus and their Izunas of the world. Are blowout cards effective and good against this deck? They are, but these are cards that just won't win you the game by themselves. Best case scenario, you can evilly match for 6 cards, but if they decide to, like, for example, Snow Devil have their board away to just play around the evilly match, they can choose to keep the Vanquish Soul start, and this just gives like destruction protection. You also have the Holisu in your hand to just summon and just keep playing the game that way. Like, the tempo of this deck just goes back even if you break their entire board, which is why I think if you're going with the blowout cards approach, you need to pair it with other cards that do their job well, like for example Fenrir, or for example like Summoning Curse. cards like those are really good alongside the blowout cards. Now, let's talk about floodgates. Also with the Shadow Schism, so Shadow Schism is really cool in our deck because it is searchable. It does summon the Winda, and Winda, it kind of falls into a weird category. It kind of falls into a category of trades, blowouts, and floodgates, because obviously Winda's effect to just halt special summoning after just one summon really slows down the Vanquish Soul deck. It kind of puts them in the position of they immediately have to threaten the Winda away. In Dracotail specifically, that is a good thing, because you have Winda paired up with stuff like Dracotail Horn and Dracotail Flame, just to make sure that, you know, you keep the Winda on board while making sure that they cannot blow you over. But they also have tools in their favor that can also benefit them against Winda. One example is Holisu to just take the Winda from you. This does take the lowest attack position monster possible, so if we don't have anything else besides the Winda, they can just take Winda from us. The other one is Jiaolong's effect to change a monster to defense position. Winda only has 800 defense, so if they can get to Jiaolong and Jiaolong can successfully do his effect to just run over Winda, that's also favorable for them because they have the Jiaolong alongside their normal summon. Like, let's say for example they have Razen to grab a Jiaolong, Razen can reveal Jiaolong, Jiaolong can special, and then Jiaolong can just change Winda to defense. Jiaolong naturally has more attack as well. So the Schism play, the benefit that we have is that we do already main it, and it doesn't conflict with our engines. The bad news is they do have in-engine outs to it. Let's talk about the reveal cards, Eye of Truth and Mutually Assured Destruction. These two are basically in the same category. I'll start with Mutually Assured Destruction first. For those who don't know what this card is basically like a pointer of the Red Lotus, but instead of you banishing a card from them, you freeze an effect of a card that you both share. This card is kind of weird. I don't really like this card, but before I explain what I don't like about the card, I'll explain the benefits behind this card. So all the Vanquish Soul monsters need to reveal in order to do their effects. So if you use Mutually Assured Destruction, none of these cards can activate. Holisu cannot special summon, Holisu cannot summon from the deck, Razen does not get to pop a monster, Jiaolong does not get to summon from the hand, Mad Love does not get to bounce. That is a lot of effects that you're shutting down. And it's just a blanket effect, so like it's just for the entire turn. And more importantly, you're already having hand knowledge of your opponent, so you basically know what to do to counter their strategy properly because you're already seeing their hand. What I don't like about this card is that it's very, very specific for just this matchup. You're probably are not going to play this card against other decks. The hand knowledge is kind of cute, but I don't think that is what breaks this card. What breaks this card is basically just the knowledge. I mean, basically just freezing the turn of Vanquish Soul effects, which is a lot of effects that you're stopping. Let's talk about Eye of Truth. I actually like this one a little bit more than Mutually Assured Destruction. Basically, this is the same deal. We both have our hands revealed. Actually, no, it's only your opponent, which already makes it better than Assured Destruction, so you don't have to reveal your hand while your opponent does. Them gaining life point doesn't matter. Most of the time, they won't have a spell card in their hand, so they usually won't gain those life points. Yeah, I think this card is not that bad. I actually like this card a lot better than Mutually Assured Destruction, but this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. This card is just specifically for the matchup, and in a format where you just have too many matchup overlapping one with the other, you kind of need to make sure that if you're actually playing Eye of Truth, you actually have a good intention behind playing Eye of Truth, if that makes sense. Let's talk about Parsing Stone alongside Skill Drain. Performa Power 5 Rainbow Magician also falls into the same category. These are just effects that just stop monsters on the field. These are really good because Vanquish Soul is 90% a monster deck. Like, they don't have that many spell and traps. Some of the time they can side like cards that can just break your back row and your floodgates. But this is one thing about Dracotail that's really cool. They have a way to just stopping cards that can just get rid of your back row. So pairing these alongside the Dracotail Flame is really strong. It actually keeps the tempo to your favor. A lot of your Dracotail effects are graveyard effects, not field effects. So you really don't care if you get skill drained. Althalion is like a really big monster. It's like 3000 attack, 3500 if you pair it with the Primeval Planet. So just having a 3500 beater that can actually come back if you actually fusion summon again, paired up with skill drain, is just enough to just win you the game outright against certain strategies. Parsing Stone is a weird one. It's pretty much the same as skill drain. It's a little bit more conditional, but it kind of just fulfills the same condition as skill drain. Performa Power 5 Rainbow Magician I actually do like a lot because not only does it freeze the monster effects, they can also not attack. And again, Vanquish Soul is just one of those decks that is just very monster heavy. It's very much the same as Super Heavy Samurai back in 2023. So the purpose behind this card works really well with the deck. Also, it has synergy with our deck because it is a light spellcaster. And its graveyard effect also triggers whenever you set cards, which is very easy in our deck because our Dracotail cards just enable that. So even if they get rid of this card, you have ways to get it back. So this is a very solid one. Majesty and Inspector Border. This kind of falls into the same category, but these are a lot more stronger because they just stop monster effects, period. Like, if you go first and you summon Inspector Border, this card feels like an FTK against the Vanquish Soul deck. Same thing with Majesty Fiend. They need very specific outs to it. Like, one card that comes to my mind is just Stake Your Soul to summon a bigger monster to just run over these. But these go back to the same argument we had with Winda. You can just Dracotail Horn and just bounce the monster back. And the main difference between these and Winda is that both Dracotail Horn and Dracotail Flame cannot be negated by Ash Blossom, because these cards are already stopping Ash Blossom from summoning. Like from activating her effect. So in this deck is really strong in that regard. Dracotail again is just one of those decks that can play the slow game. If you ever need or feel like you need to control the game and just beat over your opponent, like this alongside like a big fusion monster just kind of gets to them. You can make the argument that if you summon a fusion monster, that does give them one effect to activate. But again, that just goes back to what I was saying about them having very limited effects to begin with. But yeah, these are cards to consider if you're playing this deck. We already talked about this, but you know. Mistaken Arrest. So this is a really strong card. Basically, if they start playing on your turn 0 and they just summon, like for example, Rosin with the Holly Sue, you can just mistake an arrest in chain to that, and yes, you do miss out on you searching certain cards, but look at it this way. Your Razan didn't resolve, so that's already a -1 for your opponent. Dr. Madlove cannot get her ad. Jowlon does not get its ad either. Like, and if you activate this on your turn, this is going to be a lingering effect for 3 turns. Because this stays until the end of your next turn. And 3 turns is a lot. Like, it's a lot to deal with. Heatwave. So, Dracotail is one of those weird decks that can synergize well with Heatwave. Like, I'll give you an example. If you have 5 mana in your hand, 5 mana is a quick effect to fuse. So you can just activate Heatwave at the start of your main phase 1 and then chain 5 mana to just special summon your Dracotail. You get your Dracotail summon, you get the Heatwave Floodgate effect, and whatever you use to fuse, if they were other Dracotails, you can use them to just set your spell and traps and just already have a board presence while your opponent has little to nothing to do with this card. Like, the absolute worst case scenario is that they can Holly Suit to take your fusion and then tribute summon over it, but you know, that's just very wishful thinking. They're still not playing the game, and they just gave you 2 turns. So yeah, this is just another card to think about. Now I want to talk about the absolute best card against Vanquish Soul, at least in my opinion. That is Rivalry of Warlords. All the Vanquish Soul monsters are different types. Every single one of them. Izuna is also a different type. Izuna shares the same type as Razan, but that's pretty much it. Like, almost nothing in their arsenal can beat this card. This also makes it so they cannot tag out into their monsters properly. This also makes it so, like, revealing is kind of awkward with certain names. This card also functions as a blowout card. Like in the category of blowouts, Rivalry also is treated as a blowout card, because if your opponent already has an established board, but they do not have a way to get rid of the Rivalry, you can just flip the Rivalry and just blanket their entire board altogether. So yeah. I know that this is pretty much like continuation of the last video when we talked about side cards, but we kind of wanted to talk about specifically Vanquish Soul, because this is our worst matchup. To this day, I haven't won a single match against this deck, like, outside of DB. In DB, I've already won a few games, like you guys already saw in my past replays. But at least in my locals, I have not beaten the Vanquish Soul deck yet, and I kinda am struggling at the moment. I know that you can just not play Dracotail and just play another deck, but I really feel strongly about Dracotail in the format despite this matchup. If this matchup is not a thing, I feel like the deck is very comfortable into all the other decks as of right now, at least in my testing. But yeah, I figure I kind of want to bring this up as well, because we're pretty much in the same situation we were in 2023 when Super Heavy Samurai became a deck. Super Heavy Samurai was not the best deck in the game. However, it was the deck with the highest ceiling, and it was the deck that everybody was afraid of when the deck came out. And this deck is very, very similar to that deck in that regard. Back then, Kashtira was the best deck, but you know, Super Heavy Samurai kind of had a little slap on the wrist. Well, I'm not gonna say slap on the wrist. It really, the ban list that came like 1.5 months after the deck's release, well, the support's release rather, kind of really neutered the deck. And we are unsure if our next ban list is going to do something about Vanquish Soul K9. If they don't do anything about this deck, and they don't address it in or at least slightly hit it to some degree, this will be the best deck. And not only will this be the best deck, this deck will dominate a lot of events. Very similar to how it's happening already in the OCG. But yeah, until then, I hope you found this informative to your liking and understanding. Keep practicing and keep dueling.